attacks on Palestinians in the West Bank, a forceful gesture aimed in part at Arab American voters in the United States who have expressed fury about the president's backing of Israel's war in Gaza. And Senator Chuck Schumer, Democrat of New York and the majority leader, said today that he would set up a test vote next week on a measure pairing an immigration crackdown with tens of billions of dollars in military assistance to Ukraine and Israel. But the package is facing a rough road with Republican resistance in both chambers. And President Biden and Nikki Haley both hit the campaign trail today as Biden tried to get a jump start on the general election by visiting a crucial battleground state. And Haley aimed to convince voters in her home state of South Carolina that the Republican primary is not yet over and that she can still beat former President Donald Trump. Biden traveled to Michigan as well today, where he met with members of the United Auto Workers, which endorsed him last week, and visited a restaurant to speak with local Black religious leaders. And California Legislative Black Caucus released a slate of reparations bills to implement ideals from the state's landmark task force on the issue. The proposals include potential compensation for property seized from Black owners, but one of the headlines is that the recommendations for this litigation package does not include direct cash payments to descendants of enslaved Black people. Now, if approved, the proposals would expand access to education and community-driven solutions to violence. A lot of support for these legislative solutions and to the task force recommendations. This is Areva Martin in real time, and I'm your host, Areva Martin. This is your one-stop destination for today's trending news, expert analysis, and my unfiltered opinions. This is hour 2 of Areva Martin in real time, and this is the hour where we go deep, where we dig behind the headlines and bring you the stories that have people talking. Well, today in this hour, we are continuing a story that we started earlier this week, and it is the story of a 16-year-old girl named Michaela. Now, Michaela is on the autism spectrum, and she is, for the most part, nonverbal. Her mother was on the show earlier this week, as well as a therapist that she's been working with. Both are remarkable advocates, not only for Michaela, but for other kids on the spectrum. And they wanted to share Michaela's journey as a nonverbal autistic teen with the world. So they created a documentary called Michaela's Voice. And in this hour, I'm going to be talking to Michaela's dad. His name is Kari Kane, and he goes by Needles because he happens to be a Grammy Award-winning producer. And he is going to talk to us about what it's like to be Michaela's dad and what inspired him to want to tell her story. This story about Michaela has already won an honorable mention at a national film festival. And according to Michaela's mom, they want to spread the word and are going to film festivals all over the country. Also joining us in this hour is going to be Julio Palacio. And Julio is the producer and director of the documentary, Michaela's Voice. Super excited about this story because, as you know, many of you know, I am the mother of a son who's on the autism spectrum. I'm an autism advocate. I've started a nonprofit, and I work with a lot of families, and I know how difficult it was for my family to get help when my son was first diagnosed. So I'm always inspired and encouraged to see families like the Kane family who are willing to share something so personal about their family, about their daughter, about their child, with the world, with the hope of inspiring and helping others who are raising kids on the spectrum. So when we come forward, Kari Kane and Julio Palacio join me as we continue our coverage of this very, very important documentary, Michaela's Voice.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
5 minutes, King.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that caring for the community means caring about the climate. You might have heard that we announced a pretty bold 12-month, $2 million campaign to do four things: increase climate literacy, turn up the volume on communities of color in the climate conversation, connect everyday people with the resources they need to survive and thrive, and highlight frontline climate justice crusaders of color throughout this year. KBLA Talk 1580 will be bringing you insightful interviews on all of our shows to help raise your climate IQ. Each quarter this year, we will also be hosting free climate events in various communities throughout the city with food, fun, and forward-thinking conversations. Thanks to partners like LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, the Sierra Club, the California Community Foundation, the California Endowment, AQMD, MWD, and more. You'll also be hearing more about a couple of national town halls broadcasting live from Los Angeles, to which you will be invited. And we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice. Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. We care enough. We care enough. We care enough.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over. And if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard to reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
You got me. The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
We are back, and in this hour, Kari Kane, who goes by Needles, a Grammy Award-winning producer, and Julio Palacio, a producer and director of the documentary Michaela's Voice. They're both joining us today to talk about this incredible documentary, Michaela's Voice. It's a story about the journey of the 16-year-old teenage girl who's on the autism spectrum, who is nonverbal, but she has found a way to communicate, and they want the world to know about it. Thank you so much, Kari, and thank you so much, Julio, for joining the show and for sharing this story. I had a chance earlier in the week to meet your wife and to meet your therapist, who've been intimately involved in helping your daughter, Michaela, find her voice. So I just want to start with you, Kari, for you, what was the inspiration in terms of wanting to take something so personal, your daughter's diagnosis and, her life, and make it into a documentary?
First of all, thanks for having me. Initially, I wanted to do some type of documentary or something that kind of highlighted Black families. That was my goal initially. It's just something that we don't really see a lot in this generation. When I grew up, there was like the Cosby Show and Different World, and there was, the main character is like a doctor, and the kids are going to college. So I really wanted to kind of highlight that in my family. And Julio and I worked on another documentary prior to this, and I saw him. We live in the same neighborhood. I saw him at a restaurant, and I said, hey, I really want to kind of highlight what we have going on.
Right.
And yeah, I just, once we got more into it, Michaela stole the show basically, and what she had going on as far as figuring out that letterboarding was her way to communicate to us for the first time. It was just an amazing story that we couldn't really ignore. You know what I mean? It's something we want to highlight.
So let me ask you this. So many dads in particular struggle,
Mm,
this isn't a gender-based statement, but it just happens to be the reality.
mm,
Dads in particular, particularly in my experience, working in a nonprofit and working with families across Los Angeles and across the state of California, really struggle when they get a diagnosis of autism, particularly boys, because boys are, 4 times more likely to have autism or to be diagnosed with autism than girls. You happen to have a daughter on
mm.
the spectrum. What was that like for you getting that diagnosis and getting to that point where you were able to accept it and move past the diagnosis to get her the help that she needed?
I think, for us, for my wife and I, when we got the news, I think, initially it was shock. It was, we weren't sure what the future held, but I think we got one big cry out, when we found out, and we just, we gave each other a hug and just said, "Hey, what's next?" And it's just in our both of our personalities to just say, "Hey, what's next?" And not really to dwell on it or think about what could have been. It's just like you just got to deal with, what reality and see how we can make Michaela's life, the best it could be. So I wouldn't say for me personally, although I have heard your sentiment how fathers kind of come to that or have a hard time coming to a grip with that. But for us, my wife and I we do everything together. So that was my experience.
What would you say to a dad that is getting a diagnosis and doesn't have, your kind of attitude about it? Maybe he's feeling down about it. Maybe what I've heard some dads say, particularly when their sons are diagnosed, they may have these dreams of them playing professional sports or, being this kind of guy's guy. And
Mm,
now, having a kid that maybe can't tie their shoes or doesn't have good, hand-to-eye coordination, all the things that you need to be an athlete, they
mm.
feel like something has been taken from them or, some big hope and dream has been ripped away. What would you say to a dad who's having those very real feelings?
I would say and encourage them just to know that, I mean, your child is still there. Your child is present. He or she may not be able to speak or function like, I guess, a normal child, but it's still a human being there that still deserves, attention, still deserves to have a best life they can live. And the deeper you get into this, you'll realize, what kind of personality they have, their sense of humor, how hardworking they are, how brilliant they are. So I think that, and that's why this story resonates because, although my wife and I, we wake up every morning at 6 o'clock, we make so she doesn't go to the bathroom and go through all these different things. But when you get that chance to really connect with them and to get that feedback from them, and it's just an amazing feeling. So I would just say it's hard, but hang in there,
And you and your wife have 2 other kids. You have 3 kids altogether. One of the
Mm,
other things that typically happens in families is that you may have kids, the siblings, as they call the sibs,
mm,
may have issues. Sometimes there's jealousy issues because that child on the spectrum maybe gets all of the attention, or maybe it's taking up mom and dad's time because
mm.
they do have these extra, needs, extra meetings, extra, they have therapists coming in. Did you have any of those kind of issues with your other kids where maybe even it was difficult for them to understand, or maybe they felt ashamed to say to their friends that their sister is autistic?
No, I really think my kids have been great throughout this. I mean, we all look at Michaela as like someone we have to protect and someone that we have to make sure that um one, you have to have an eye on her because she'll take off. But um, my oldest child, you know, she's done great. She's always protected Michaela. She's always had her back. There's never been any kind of jealousy between my oldest Amani or Nasir. I think they both just been protectors. And, we definitely have those situations to where we're in the car with like my son's friends and they may not understand what's going on or how to interact with the child on the spectrum. But my son is patient and just says, "Hey, she's autistic, but she's smarter than you guys." So, he'll find a way to kind of take the tension off and just make his company realize that she's a normal child, just like them. Just it just comes off a little different.
Mm-hmm. And I know that your wife talked about getting services, getting her diagnosis and going through that process when, she was a little girl, she was 2 and 3 years old. Have you felt like as African American dad that, have you ever had an experience where you felt like you were being treated differently, that, kids that perhaps, weren't Black or brown maybe had different opportunities or were treated differently? Because that's another, common thing that I hear from families is particularly children of color is like, our kids aren't given the same access and same opportunities. Is that something that your family or any of the families that, you have encountered have experienced?
Well, I think it's well, first of all, Black and brown kids, they get diagnosed later. They typically get misdiagnosed. In our experience, it's more so about the information and really researching. Like it's all at your fingertips. But you really have to go out there, ask around, you have to do your research. And for us, a big part of that was hiring a lawyer. That was probably one of the biggest things that kind of really helped this process. I know our initial IEP meeting, we weren't prepared. We didn't know what was going on. And we saw kind of how they just shoved the plan, down our throats. And we didn't have the knowledge to push back and know what we deserve and what each child deserves. So I think early on, once we got our lawyer involved, it really opened our eyes to the process. And I think what we've learned the most is like the information is out there. You just gotta go out there and get it and make sure you're holding, the school system accountable.
Let me bring you in, Julio, to the conversation. I know as a producer and director, you've been involved in a lot of projects, but have you ever worked with a person, a child or an adult on the spectrum before starting your work with Michaela?
Well, thank you for having us here. Well, that first project that I did with Needles years ago, that was my first kind of encounter with a child with disabilities. And that story, it was similar to this. We were trying just to tell the story of Needles getting a nomination to the Grammys. We did a commercial together. He made the music for that commercial, and I saw his world, and I was like really interested about it. And when we started filming that, the story ended up being about Michaela again. It comes back to that, and to me, it was just special to be able to. For the first one, Michaela, we didn't know that she could communicate, so it was a little different. But for this one, it was just special to be around Michaela and to see how smart she is and how poetic. And I just felt grateful to be able to tell her story and to have the trust of Needles and Mañana, because it's a really important story that we wanted to tell, and that we know we might be able to find more voices out there. So it was just definitely probably one of the best experience I had working on a documentary.
What kind of challenges did you face? I know I was a part of I moderated a panel discussion last year, at the end of last year, an agency was creating some content, some commercials, some short kind of films with individuals on the spectrum, and they brought in a production team, directors, and it was just interesting to hear how these directors were, trying to navigate getting the best out of these individuals, while getting what they needed from a filmmaking standpoint. So did you face any challenges? Were there days where Michaela didn't want to be filmed or didn't want, to give you what you wanted as a director?
We had some of those days. We knew from the beginning that we were not really going to be able to direct Michaela. We were just going to go and film what we could capture. But I don't know, for some reason, I think the project was meant to be, and everything worked out for the most part. There were only a few days where we just had to like stop filming earlier than we had planned, just because Michaela was tired or she just didn't want to be filmed.
Mhm.
But other than that, it was actually really smooth, which is surprising, I know.
So when you say you knew you weren't going to be able to direct her as a filmmaker, what does that look like? How are you telling the story of someone that you're saying you don't have that kind of, typical control over that you would have, let's say if the person was, what we call neurotypical?
The good thing about this film is that I had access to the transcripts. So I basically wrote the story from the transcripts, from everything that Michaela was saying. And because we knew the situation was going to be complicated with directing her and getting those shots just like spontaneously, what we did, we cut the entire story. Once she picked her voice, we just edit everything. So the voiceover and the music was there. So the only thing that we were missing were the visuals. And so that really helped because we knew exactly what we needed. And every time we met Needles, Mañana, and Michaela, the entire family, we'll say, okay, today we need to capture footage for these scenes when she says this, when she says that. And so it was like very, very specific versus like a typical documentary where you just go and find the moments, find the story. This one was more planned, if you want to call it that way, where we just had the whole story already in the edit room. It was just a matter of filling the visuals.
So you did use a voiceover for Michaela. How did you decide what that person's voice would be like?
We asked her what she would like her voice to sound like. And so she said that she wanted a raspy voice. There was a whole description. I forgot exactly what she said. And so then we gave that to our audio guy, and he auditioned. I think he was around 30 people. And then out of those 30 people, we took 20 voices to Michaela. And she picked the voice, which is actually in the film when we see her like pick the one that she liked.
So what has that process been like, submitting this documentary to, I know you all were at the Slam Dance, right? Film Festival in January, just a couple of weeks ago. What was the reception like? I know you got honorable mention for the film, but just, share with us what the reception was like at that film festival.
It was amazing. It was just amazing to see not only the audience, but also like other filmmakers that came to us, and some of them, they said that is the best film that they have ever seen. So that really gives you like hope, and it encourages you to keep going. And this is the first festival that we submitted to, and we still got like at least 20 more that are coming. So hopefully this is the first of many. But being there really showed us that you always think, my film is good, or for the most part, but to have that validation from other filmmakers, especially, it was very special to the team.
Wow, that's incredible. I know Michaela's mom, when she was on the show, said that you guys have submitted to some other festivals in other parts of the country. When we come forward, I want to talk about with you, Kari, what do you hope to accomplish, both of you, from not just a filmmaking standpoint, but the messaging in this film? There's so much hope, obviously, in this film. For me, it is a film about hope. How do you see this? Where do you want to see this film? Does it go to the big screen? Does it, become one in a series? of other stories about Michaela. So when we come forward, more with Kari Kane and Julio Palacio. And the film is Michaela's Voice. Stay with us, KBLA Talk 1580.
When we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. A flag marking the beginning of Black History Month is flying high in St. Petersburg, Florida, possibly for the last time. The city raised the flag earlier today. It comes as a bill restricting flag displays with political viewpoints at municipal buildings makes its way through the Florida legislature. Mayor Ken Welch says the city is focused on honoring Black history no matter what happens in Tallahassee. Lawmakers are taking a historic step on how to compensate Black Californians. A new legislative package was unveiled based off of recommendations from the state's reparations task force. It does not include cash payments for descendants of slavery. Instead, the 14 bills range from restoring property taken during race-based uses of eminent domain to providing medically supportive food to Medi-Cal recipients. One proposed law also calls for the governor and legislator to apologize for human rights violations. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Emergency roadwork back in La Mirada continues on Beach Boulevard North at Rosecrans Avenue, blocking the right lane with stop traffic that continues from La Mirada Boulevard, Malvern Avenue split until 3 a.m. tomorrow morning. Huntington Beach PCH north and south between Warner and Sea Point continues to have severe flooding that has the roadway closed in both directions. For those on the northbound side, take Golden West north to Warner, then go back west to get back on PCH. If you're on the southbound side, take Warner Avenue east to Golden West, turn right on the southbound side to turn back onto PCH.
When you get your biggest tax refund from Jackson Hewitt, prepare to shout, Jackson Hewitt, yeah, from the rooftops. In the event you don't get your biggest refund, you'll get your money back, plus $100.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The final two head coaching vacancies in the NFL were filled today. Baltimore defensive coordinator Mike McDonald was hired by Seattle. Dallas defensive coordinator Dan Quinn was hired by Washington. Of the 8 openings in the offseason, 3 teams hired a Black head coach. Gerard Mayo at New England, Raheem Morris at Atlanta, and Antonio Pierce at Las Vegas. 6 of the NFL's 32 teams will have a Black head coach in the 2024 season. We kick off Black History Month today with our first Black History Month sports moment. On January 31st, 1988, Doug Williams became the first Black quarterback to play in a Super Bowl. He was named MVP after throwing 4 touchdown passes to lead Washington to a 42-10 win over Denver. Williams' performance erased the myth that Black quarterbacks were not capable of leading NFL teams to a championship. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen, plus a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black. Your Black.
You're young. Life is full of choices. Don't let opioids like highly addictive and deadly fentanyl take away your life with just one wrong pill. Addiction is a disease that can affect anyone at any age. but there is a choice to get help for this disease. Find medically proven treatment options, including virtual, at choosemat.org.
Climate justice, climate resilience. By any other name, we demand environmental justice in 2024. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio, but music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We are back, and in this hour, I'm talking with Kari Kane. He goes by Needles. He is a Grammy Award-winning producer, and he's the father of 16-year-old Michaela. And Julio Palacio is a producer and director of the documentary Michaela's Voice. Both of them are joining me because Michaela's Voice is creating some buzz on the film festival circuit. So, Kari, what's your hope and expectation and dream about, how this documentary has an impact on the autism community in particular?
Well, initially, this documentary was just to bring awareness to our foundation, Michaela Moving Autism. I had no idea it would turn into something that would be in a film festival or anything like that. I just wanted to bring awareness and to highlight the fact that we're trying to raise money to build a facility here in Atlanta. We've already purchased the land. And so, that was, the initial goal. But now that it's starting to create some buzz, I mean, I feel like the sky's the limit. I'm somewhat competitive, and I hope that we continue to push it, because I do think the bigger it gets and the more eyes are on it, I think it'll change some people's lives, and, like you said, give them hope, and also once again create that awareness, hopefully through our foundation. Just really, I want people to know that these kids are brilliant, and there's a lot more in them. I know Julio and I talked I guess last week or in Salt Lake about the possibility of expanding the story, or because to me, this was a slice of Michaela's life and in her journey. I feel like, raising a kid on the spectrum is such a marathon, and I think what we caught was a very beautiful story. It shows how smart she is, but there's other parts to this journey. It's not all pie in the sky. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times, where it could be frustrating for parents, and you got to give yourself grace and stuff like that. So, hopefully one day, I'm not sure when, hopefully we'll be able to tell a little bit more of the story. But I'm really happy and excited with what Julio was able to accomplish with the film.
I'm glad you said that, Kari, because you and your wife, obviously, you guys have figured a lot of this out. You obviously have some financial resources that help make this journey a lot easier. You said you've gotten hooked up with an attorney in your town that's been able to advocate for you, and all of that's incredible and that's fantastic. But that is not the reality of so many families who are raising kids with autism. So I'm glad you talked about, this isn't all just, apple pie and sunshine, that there are struggles and there are difficulties, and particularly in communities, low income communities, or when you have single moms or single dads raising not just one, but maybe, multiple kids, and one is on the spectrum. I have families that I work with in my organization. They have three kids on the spectrum, all at different, levels in terms of their abilities. So this can be a really isolating journey. It could be a very expensive journey, and it can be very frustrating for parents because depending on where you live, services. If you're in a big city, you may have access to services that those families in small towns don't have, or rural parts of states don't have. So I think just telling, all sides of this story are really, really important. And Julio, let me ask you this, documentaries like this, where do they end up? Like, people, we think of big movies, right? They end up in theaters, but a 28, 29-minute documentary, what are the possibilities for broader distribution?
That's a great question. That has always been the struggle with shorts in general, like both fiction and documentary. There could be an opportunity for Michaela, just because since it has this strong message, and also the letterboard, where we could potentially distribute it as a education tool. So we have talked about that, but it's very early conversations. Like Needle said, like things are happening really fast, and like
Well, no, I'm just saying in general, even besides this, like
right in general,
a short about
yeah,
a road or something.
I'm still trying to figure that out as I build my career as a filmmaker, and that my goal is for my next project to be a feature, so that I have more opportunities when it comes to like distributing the project, because it's definitely harder with shorts.
Okay, so we know shorts end up in these film festivals. We know they end up on the award circuit because, they'll be nominated, but broader distribution, you're saying it's still a little more complicated for shorts to have distribution.
Yes, absolutely. And the main goal with shorts sometimes is to get an opportunity to expand it to a feature, or to find a way to tell the idea as a series, because shorts are more like a platform that will take you to that next level.
Okay, so a lot of filmmakers, you're saying, will make a short documentary as a way to platform a bigger feature.
Yes.
And it was that your experience, you described it as so positive, working with Michaela, working with the Kane family. Can you see yourself being in a project, with kids or adults who are on the spectrum? Is that an area where you could see yourself doing another project, outside of what you may do with Michaela and her family?
Absolutely. Just to me, to be able to use a little bit of my talent to help other people, and especially after making Michaela and learning more about kids in the spectrum, to me it will be a great honor to tell more stories and to be able to help spread the message.
It's really, really important. Let's talk about financing again. I say this journey can be very expensive. Those families that, Kari, want to chronicle their experiences with autism, without, you don't have to tell me how much it costs exactly, but, was this an expensive project for you?
The film?
You're making of the film.
Yes. I mean, it's expensive, but I feel like the message needed to be out there. I think in the scheme of things, I feel like we're blessed as a family, and in the scheme of things, to make this film, I think it'll do more good for the world. You know what I mean? So, it was expensive, but I think it was a
Worth it.
really good investment for sure.
And again, Julio, the short documentaries, families that may want to do something like this, you have any advice for them? Because there are a lot of families I meet that feel like they have a unique story with their special needs child, whether a child has autism or cerebral palsy, or maybe dealing with some other disability. I know several have written books. I know several mothers who have written books about their, children's experiences. What advice do you give an amateur filmmaker that might want to make a movie about their experience?
I think, at least for me, I did Michaela as a passion project, and I think in my career, every passion project that I've made, even though it's hard because sometimes you have to balance that with the other projects, and you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes you don't have the resources, not in this case, but in other projects, passion projects that I've done in the past. But just find a way to make it work. Find a way to tell your story. Find a few friends that are in the industry as well that might be trying to build their portfolio, and just have like a really good pitch for your story, and you'll be surprised how many more people are willing to help you, to even if they don't do it for free, at least to do it for a smaller rate. And these projects always open doors for other projects, and just making a project is always a good experience. You learn more, you meet these amazing people. So that's kind of my advice: just keep working and keep making those passion projects.
And I imagine now with iPhones and Androids and smartphones being so advanced, a lot of folks can just capture their kids' life, kind of their daily activities on their own cell phones. And we've seen some really incredible documentaries and movies where people literally have just used cell phone footage. I just think it's so inspiring when you see parents have had a breakthrough like Michaela had, being able to, for the first time, express herself using this letter board. I do hope, I don't know what ultimately will become of this film, but I love that you said there's a possibility of it being an educational tool. Because again, as a parent and as someone who works in this industry, I know that having those tools that particularly have people of color, that can be difficult for a lot of people to find. So I do hope that that is one avenue that you all will consider or continue to keep as something that might be a way to get this out into the hands of a lot of people. Kari, just your daughter, 16 years, your wife said she's in a school, uh, doing well, said one of her struggles, like a lot of kids on the spectrum, is having friends. How do you see this film? Are you guys taking her with you? Is this an opportunity for her to maybe expand her social circle?
Yes, I mean we definitely took Michaela to the premiere in Salt Lake. For us, once again, this whole experience wasn't planned, but she said she was nervous, via letterboard, and she said she wasn't unsure if she can go and all these different things. But as our parents, we kind of we didn't want her to miss out on the opportunity to see her thoughts, her words, and all that stuff on the big screen, and to see other people appreciate her as for who she is. And so we didn't want to miss the opportunity for her. So we took her out there, and I forgot to tell Julio that she was actually going to be there, and I think it just kind of added to that experience. And so she did pretty well. I mean, she's at the end of the day, she is a child on the spectrum, so she may not want to go into the theater. She might want to get out and run, or her iPad may stop working, or there's so many factors that that could happen. But luckily she made it through the film, and she's seen the film before, but you know throughout the whole process she's like on her iPad kind of doing stemming and doing her thing. But this time I saw her looking up for extended periods and really kind of soaking it in. And we talked about it with Roxy, and she was very appreciative of the people watching, and she said that people were crying. And she said she was but that she wanted to tell the people that organized it or put it on. She said thank you for believing in me. That's what she said.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
yeah, so it's exciting, and that it throughout this whole process, it just feels, at least for me, it felt like a miracle for our family. And if it was really cool for Julio to be around to capture that kind of miracle and that kind of that moment for us. And I think more so than anything, I do think that this short is it's just a message of hope more than anything, and just to realize once again that these kids are you may have to pull it out of them one way or another, but they are really bright individuals. So
Well, again, congratulations, Kari Kane, Needles. Congratulations, Julio Palacio. What an amazing journey. What an amazing story. We are going to look forward. You keep us posted on, where other families can see it, because it is such an amazing story. And good luck to you, Kari, and your wife as you seek to build a center in your community that can help kids. I told your wife you guys have an open invitation to visit the autism center that I built here in Los Angeles. I would love to have you and your wife and Michaela come out, and your whole family spend some time and get to know some of the families that we work with on a regular basis. This is really an inspirational story, and I'm sure we haven't heard the last or seen the last of Michaela. She's quite a natural, and she was so inspiring in this documentary. So congratulations to both of you, and good luck on those other film festivals. And good luck, Julio, as you navigate, this world of documentary shorts. Again, thank you for joining me today. It's been really a pleasure to be in conversation with both of you. Next voice that you hear is going to be Robin Ayers and the Raw Report. Stay with us right here on KBLA Talk 1580. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate you.
thank you.